You can get you a belly full. Are you here for the festival?
People often ask, like, why does Michael Hurley play at every single Nelsonville Music Festival? And I joke, but it's true that Michael Hurley is the reason that the Nelsonville Music Festival exists. And the story behind that is 20-some years ago, someone turned me on to Michael Hurley's music, and I was just obsessed with it and his songs and the uniqueness of his, I mean, there's nothing like what he does. I mean, it's folk music, to give it a generic label. And I learned that Michael was supposedly living in Portsmouth, Ohio. And this was before I had an email account. And I didn't even have a phone. So I tracked down Michael Hurley's phone number through a friend of a friend of a friend. I don't even remember how I got it. But I got this number that I was told was Michael Hurley's number. And I remember going to a payphone because I didn't actually have a phone. I'm not talking about I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't even have a landline phone. I kept calling this number and it would just ring and it wouldn't, there was no answering machine. And then finally someone answered, and they answered the phone in this kind of like, it was almost like this cartoonish voice. It was like, video update, which I didn't quite know what it meant, but I suspected that this voice belonged to Michael Hurley. I was like, is this Michael Hurley? And there was a long pause and he was like, yes, who is this? Or something. And so I later learned that his phone number in Portsmouth, Ohio was like 1 digit off of the video store. So people often like mistakenly called his number. So when he didn't recognize the number on his caller ID, he would answer at video update. Like, so anyhow, I talk to Michael. I tell him I live over near Athens, Ohio, and he's in Portsmouth, and that I would love to have him come play Athens, Ohio. And I had no idea how to make that happen, but I thought calling him might be the best way to make it happen. He told me that, well, his normal, I think I can talk about how much he costs.
Sure, I think so.
Because it's pretty funny. He's like, well, normally I cost $500, but since you're closed, I'll do it for $250. And this was before anyone coined the term freak folk.
Right. I mean, this is 1999, which in terms of Hurley is a different.
Yeah.
Not that he is.
It might have even been 98 when I started talking to him. So it was before like Devendra became like
Cat Power did a cover.
Yes, before all of that. Just barely before that, but it was. So anyhow, related, he's like, I usually cost $500, but I'll do it for $250 since I'm closed. And I was like, great, that sounds great. So we arranged to make this happen. I can't remember if we established the date right then or what, but I contacted the Casa Cantina to see if I had friends there and asked if I could possibly book the show there. And they said, sure. And you could do it this time. And so I booked Michael. And then I also then realized, I was like, well, shit, I don't have $250. What if no one comes? So I then started doing what anyone would do, is I started like telling all my friends, who most of them didn't know who Michael Hurley was, and that I need you to come, because if not, I'm going to lose my shirt, which at that time was $250, and I didn't have it. My backup plan, because I'm a responsible music promoter, even though I didn't know I was a music promoter yet, was I was going to use the credit limit on my credit card. I knew I could get a cash advance on my credit card, which was probably like 18% interest at the time or something, if I had to. So I also like went to the local newspaper. I remember burning copies of his CDs and like making photocopies of like the inserts and like trying to like find any kind of, I really barely knew how to use the internet then because I didn't have a computer at home.
You didn't have a phone.
I didn't.
So I mean, like, yeah. The internet was
pretty far out.
Far off, yeah.
So I went and I hung, I made flyers and hung flyers around and went to the local radio station and said, like, this guy is a legend. Like, people should know who this is. I realized no one knew who he was, or pretty much no one. But sure enough, the paper ran an ad or an article on Michael, and we had a great turnout. And at the end of the night, I gave Michael his $250, and I gave the opening band, which I also happened to be in, which was called Mountaintop Removal. I gave us $100, and I still had a couple $100 left. And so I just gave it to Michael. I was like, well, look, we did good. Like, here's this. And I think it was $6 to get in. So like probably had like 80 or 100 people show up, whatever that adds up to. And I probably had to pay the bar something for the sound. And I felt really good. Everyone had a nice time. And I went home feeling like, you know, you just threw a good, like you threw a good party, right? And I fell asleep feeling happy. And then the next morning I was like, oh, that's what a music promoter is. Like, that's what, like, I could have kept that $200, which I didn't care. I was happy to give it to him, but I was like, that's what that business is. I know it sounds pretty silly. Like, I mean, most people probably knew that, but like, I was just like, I wasn't even thinking about being a music promoter. I just wanted Michael Hurley to come to town. And then it dawned on me that that's what that was. And it was really fun. So I then tried another show and another show and another show. And they continued to be mostly fun. My rule is that if the fun outweighs the hardship, then it's still worth doing.
Did you ever leave Nelsonville with a broken heart? Did you ever
So like Michael Hurley is the reason I'm a music promoter, and then I started renting Stewart's Opera House, and then Stewart's Opera House hired me, and then we started, you know, I was at the beginning of the Nelsonville Music Festival, so like Michael Hurley is responsible for the Nelsonville Music Festival happening. And that's why he still comes and plays, and he's invited to come and play as long as he wants.
Is not just responsible, not to get too big about it, but he's not just responsible for the Nelsonville Music Festival happening, he's responsible for you doing any of this probably.
Yeah. He's the reason I'm a music promoter. Having that Michael Hurley show, which was completely without the intention of being it was not entrepreneurial from my standpoint, right? I was doing it because I wanted to see him play live. And there was no greater plan than that. And I was not thinking about what I was going to do the following day. I was just like, I want Michael Hurley to come and play, and he's living in Ohio, so let's bring him here. And so then it was successful, and it was really fun to do that. So I just kept doing that with other artists, and then it turned into my profession out of like a hobby, really, or something, I guess. So I'm really like, I'm also super lucky, like, because it could have gone a different way easily, many, many different times. And I also always say this, like, not only is Michael Hurley responsible, but the fact that people enjoy coming and supporting live music, like, that has to be a piece of it too, because if they wouldn't have showed, you know,
If 5 people would have come to that show.
If 5 people would have come to that show, I would not have gone home. I would have got the cash advance on my credit card and paid Michael Hurley and went home and never done another show. So like, without people showing up, you got to have the artists and the audience to make it happen. They both need each other. And then I happen to be the middle person that helps coordinate it all somehow.
You a belly full? Are you on a fest? Are you on a festival?